For July 17th to order. We'll stand for a moment of silent reflection, and then we'll ask Karen to lead the pledge.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Karen.
I looked at that and I thought, geez, I didn't make that.
Next order of business is to review and approve the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to make any changes to the agenda?
Good morning. Leanne Holland-Shetty, SCC. Item 21, we had put on the agenda anticipating some action this morning, and we are not ready for that.
So you would like that
Removed, please?
to another time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any other amendments to the agenda?
I have to give Holly a hard time this morning, don't she, Deb? I was wondering about the roads and brides, but we found out what that was about, so.
Okay.
Sorry, Holly, I couldn't resist it.
Do we have a motion?
So move, as amended.
Okay. Motion and a second to approve the agenda with item 21 removed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We move to the consent agenda, and we'll ask Holly to read that into the record.
Good morning, Holly Hennies, Commission Office Manager. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the Board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today, I have placed the following 13 items on the consent calendar for your consideration. Minutes of the regular meeting from July 3rd, 2012. Approval of the vouchers totaling $2,547,780 to acknowledge the annexation to the Red Neck Road District, to acknowledge the annexation to the Sheridan Lakes Highlands Road District, to approve the contract with Space Saver Storage Systems, Inc., Halderman Home, Inc., for evidence processing equipment identified as bid item A in the amount of $79,871.44, to approve the contract with Space Saver Storage Systems, Inc., Halderman Home, Inc., for storage systems identified as bid item B in the amount of $200,371, to approve the contract with Laboratory Systems, Inc. for fixed lab equipment identified as bid item D in the amount of $60,881.37, to approve the contract with Laboratory Systems, Inc. for mobile lab equipment identified as bid item D in the amount of $127,788. Approval of the third quarter SLA state and local agreement report from Emergency Management. Request authorization to bid for Playhouse Road repairs from Highway. Request approval of modification number 1 to a co-op road agreement 09-R0-1102-0300-19 with the Forest Service. To request approval of the Reservoir Road engineering contract from Highway. And finally, recognition of the volunteers for the county for the months of May and June of 2012.
Thank you, Holly. Is there anyone who wishes any item that has been noted in the consent agenda removed? Anyone? Members of the Commission?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to remove item 16 just for discussion purposes.
Item 16 has been requested to be removed from the consent agenda. Is anyone in the audience that has an item they wish removed? Any others from the Commission? If not, Chair would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda with the removal of item 16.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with item 16 removed. Any discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 16.
The question I have, I guess, would be for Heine. I realize that this is a professional services, so obviously we don't need to bid it, but the original quote let's see, I think it was $185,000 was given back in 2007, and I'm just, I guess I'm wondering, we come up with another $24,669. Was that just through negotiations with them, or did you do some checking with some other engineers, or is it the best for us because they did the lower portion of that project to stay with CTEC?
It was a negotiation that the Highway Department had with them back in '07. They did a preliminary design on the complete project all the way up to Meadow Ridge Lane. And once we got preliminary estimates, we couldn't afford it. So the board at that time decided just to reconstruct the road up to Twilight. Since that time, due to utilities, there's a bunch of utilities located on both sides of the right-of-way, and we've had to move the storm sewer to the center of the road or redesign there, and then to not get into the utilities, and they're all just outside the right-of-way on private property. We've redesigned it to put a retaining wall on a portion of that road, which would have saved us a couple $100,000 by not needing to pay the utilities to relocate because they were on private property. So with those major design changes and we realize that labor and equipment costs has all went up since '07, we felt it was a fair agreement to increase the limiting amount from what was proposed in '07.
So they've already done some of the work on that upper end of Reservoir Road?
Yes.
Okay.
The preliminary design is supposed to be done around the first part of August, have the final or plans to go to the public, and we'll have a public meeting and then go from there. So they've already done a lot of this work.
Okay, all right. I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve item 16. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 18, fiscal year 2013 Pennington County Provisional Budget.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
I've sent out the provisional budget as amended more than once by the board. With clarification, the provisional budget as it sits now for approval is $81,991,639. The mountain pine beetle budget was questioned by me to make sure we were budgeting for it correctly and the way the board wanted, and the direction came to fund it from the Black Hills National Forest, which needs to come through County General, which if it's not spent, we won't get the revenue, and we're aware of that, but it does need to come through the general fund. And the rest of it is to come from the Title III monies, which would be $211,951. However, the revenues will be received in January of 2013, but have to be equated back for accounting purposes to 2012. So you will see that being supported by reserves rather than by current year revenues. The same instance for the road and bridge budget. From the forest apportionment monies, the budget was increased by $260,633. However, again, it will come as a 2012 finance, so we use that to increase cash reserves for the means of finance of that. The economic development budget was cut from $10,000 to $25,000. No other subsidy payments at that last meeting were approved. The cash reserves at 12/31/13 are now estimated at 20.51, which exceeds the goal of the county commissioners of 20%, and the county remains in a good cash position through another year. The final draft is supported by $39,675,258 in miscellaneous revenues, $9,115,594 in cash reserves, and $36,095,338 in property taxes. Property taxes were increased by this year's growth and last year's CPI, reserving this year's CPI of 3% for future needs if decided by future boards. Motion needed today or before the end of the month to approve the provisional budget for 2013 in the amount of $81,991,639 and to post for a public hearing on September 4th, 2012 at 10 a.m. That's in statute.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion by the board?
Of course, you can have additional hearings throughout the rest of the August and into September if you need to make any changes before the annual. So this isn't final by any means.
So at this point, if we have a motion, we just move to approve it as provisional. And then if we have any issues between now and September, they can be
Yes.
on a regular meeting or a special meeting.
You can set as many hearings or as many meetings as you want to address it, but you have to have the first public hearing on September 4th.
Okay, thank you.
That's in statute. You can have them before and you can have them after, as long as you approve the budget by the end of September.
Thank you. Commissioners?
I have a question for Julie, if I could. Julie, on the sheet, page 1, means of finance, we show the tax amount of the budget being supported by property tax, and then it comes down at the bottom and it says the amount of change, and it shows 6.14%. And I assume that's a combination of the CPI and the growth. Okay.
In the different funds, it'll vary.
But then when I look over here on page 2, under means of finance, levy projections, it shows a increase of from county consolidated of 725.
The page 1, column F, the total, that's an average of all your funds.
Okay.
And on the 7.25 is county consolidated, which would be those 3 funds only. So it's just an averaging between the different numbers. It's just a math.
So what wouldn't be in county consolidated?
County fire, library, unorganized road.
Okay, but see, they only show a 2.26 for the library and unorganized road, to 3.5 and 0 for the county fire.
It's just a math calculation. I can't.
Okay.
Yeah. Unorganized road and library are large values
Okay.
because they incorporate all outside the county. It's just a math thing.
Okay. I'll take your word for that one.
If my math formula is correct.
All right.
Any further questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I wouldn't have any problem with continuing discussion through parts of September, but I want to let the department heads know that my thoughts are that this budget is increased considerably over where I think it should go, and that I think that the county has enough employees as is, and I don't think we need to hire any more. So that's where I'll be heading down the road, either today or between now and the time we have to finalize the budget in September. And my thoughts are that we need to freeze the hiring. We need to revert that money that's in the 2013 budget back to the taxpayers and make the mill levy accordingly. So that's kind of where I'll be headed with it.
How many new employees, do you know?
I wasn't in on the individual budget hearing, I have no idea.
Holly, did everybody submitted that? Do we have it?
Well, I have something, this thing here, but I don't think it's quite correct, because if I remember right, there's one department that wanted 4 employees, and that doesn't equal up to what I have here. Really, so, but my guess is it's going to be in the neighborhood of 600,000.
So how many new employees does it reflect on your piece of paper? Total of 5? Well, what is emergency management shows a summer intern, Emergency Services Communications Center 1, IT 1, Sheriff's Office 2.5, and Health and Human Services 1.5. So
how many of those are going to be paid by other means of finance, though? I mean, it's fine to say those are new people, but if emergency management gets money from those funds, I don't know that that's true, but I think before we say we're not having any new people, we better look at the whole picture and investigate where the funding for those is coming.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that the emergency management, some of their funds comes from the city, some from the feds, and I believe some from the state. Also, I would add in there that I have a little problem with our fire coordinator being gone most of the time. And we wind up with more employees down there in emergency management and in fire. And I don't particularly think that we need that extra person down there. We have a person, I think, out in extension that we could probably bring on board for a half-time employee to the county if we need such. And we've been paying that person for, I don't remember now, 30-some years, I believe, that she's worked for the county. But not only if emergency management, if we didn't put those employees in place, the city would be saving some money, so would the state, so would the feds, along with the county.
We're talking $1,500, Ken.
For that part-time. Well, it's all negotiable. That's just my ideas, and I'm going to lay it out so everybody knows where I'm coming from ahead of time.
So on the extension employee, is that person working just part-time now?
No, we're working full-time. And we need to, and it's strictly blindsiding them, so that's why I'm putting it out now, but we need to go down and talk to them and see if that person can be available, which I think they probably can be.
Any other comments at this point in time? Looks like we have some things to consider in the future between now and September. As of now, is there a motion relative to the provisional budget?
I'll make a motion to approve the provisional budget for 2013 at $81,991,639 and post for a public hearing on September 4th, 2012 at 10 a.m.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for this too, just because we need to get it done this month. But I too will think we maybe need to take a little closer look. And so I think we will be discussing this budget again before final approval in September. But I think this, we need to do something, and this doesn't look too bad. So I guess I'll vote in favor of it right at the moment.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Holloway.
Well, we have 2 regular meetings between now and September 4th. So I guess I'd like, if people have ideas of what they want to cover, and Commissioner Davis has said new employees, So that gives the department heads a notice on any new employee that you got to be ready to come in and talk about that. I don't know where Commissioner Buskard wants to go. I'd like to see us, as a board, decide on some dates, preferably at our regular county commission meetings, to resolve this, and so we don't wait until September 4th to start the discussion.
I think that's a point well taken. Any further discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair, I will vote for this motion that's on the floor because I think we need to get on and continue the program, but I go along with the idea that we start immediately addressing the budget.
What, Mr. Chair, what
Yeah.
guidelines do we, I mean, we can say we're going to adjust the budget, but at some point, we should come up with guidelines to tell the department heads what they're adjusting. And maybe that's the first step next meeting is we mentioned the employees, but you can't just say, well, go adjust. Well, what are they adjusting? We need to give them a little more guidance if that's what we're going to do.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And I mentioned adjust the employees. If we don't hire the employees, we don't spend the money. And that's, my guess is the total with the 25% benefits and other things is probably around $600,000. I may be a little high, but that's in the ballpark.
For 5 employees, that'd be a little over $100,000 apiece.
And I don't think that's quite the number, and I'll have to look at it again because as I remembered, like I said, there's one department head wanted 4. So if we add just 2 of the department heads together on their first original request, just 2 of them, that's 5.5. So
we'll need to, like I said, we need to thoroughly look at that because some of those are part-time and wouldn't be getting some of the I mean, it's a thorough study.
I think it's important that each commissioner that has a concern articulate it either in writing or otherwise to Holly so that she can then contact the right people and get the information that we need. And I don't think it's productive to ambush somebody. So at some point, if Holly and our auditor have suggested guidelines for pursuing the issue that you're focused on, I think it'd be good to communicate with them. And at this point, I think it's appropriate that we vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, can we have Holly just put on the agenda the next 2 commission meetings, budget discussions?
That would be fine, yes.
Thank you.
You now have some item 19.
Yes.
A.
County Fire Fund Budget Supplement. The paperwork was submitted from Denny Gorton on June 25th, outlining a request for a supplement from his fund balance for a combination of non-budgeted grant money and restricted fund balance in the county fire fund in the amount of $661,579 from restricted cash reserves, $273,500, and non-budgeted revenue received in the current year, $388,079. It is a radio project for the Quinn Volunteer Fire Department, and to replace older mobile and portable radios for the rest of the volunteer fire departments, which include those that are taxing outside of the city limits.
Mr. Chair, just
Yes.
a point of clarification. The Quinn Volunteer Fire Department, that was to get him a new brush truck. Or not a new one, but a...
I'm sorry, yes, a brush truck, yes. The radio projects is buying a brush truck.
Thank you. Are there any public comments relating to this item?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Julie, do you know whether or not, or maybe somebody else here might know, any of these radios that are being replaced, are they the replacement radios? Are they the E.F. Johnsons that we'd gotten just a few years ago?
We have a gentleman here.
Thank you.
Dennis
Not
Mallow, the chairman of the Pennington County Fire Service Board. We applied for a grant from FEMA the last 3 years, and we finally got one approved. And so we went out and polled all of the volunteer fire departments in the county. They came back with the radios that they would like to replace, which are the E.F. Johnsons. We are going to get rid of all of the E.F. Johnsons in the county, replace them with new updated Motorola radios, which will be compatible with the system that we have today, along with the system that the state may come up with sometime later. So all of those radios and also some pagers are being replaced. We will take some of those radios and use them as reserves, a backup in case somebody has one that goes down. Some of them we will give to, our plan is to give some of them to the search and rescue people, kind of help out some of the other people that we can. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. Are those radios already been purchased, do you know,
Yes,
before the budget was approved?
correct.
Okay.
Any other comments? Again, from the public, any comments? Chair would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the supplement to the 2012 County Fire Fund operating budget in the amount of $661,579 from restricted cash reserves of $273,500 and non-budgeted revenue received in the current year of $388,079.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item B.
Every year when we do our budgeting for our budget, we have to create operating transfers to fund special revenue budgets. That includes road and bridge, 911 or communication services, and the emergency management. What we, per previous motions of the board, any salary savings that the department has from 1 year then is subtracted from their operating budget. So the adjusted transfer for road and bridge would be $974,148.69, 911 506,449.71, emergency management $49,346.85. The motion needs to be to authorize the budgeted general fund operating transfers to road and bridge, 911, and emergency management for the amounts that I've just read. This is an accounting procedure moving the cash from where it's levied to the fund that actually spends it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd make a motion to authorize the budgeted general fund operating transfers to road and bridge and E911 and emergency management as just stated by the auditor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C.
This is a public hearing notice for the renewal of the license for Sick Vic's House of Horsepower, and this is his annual renewal for a retail on-off sale malt beverage.
Any further comments relative to this issue?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd make a motion to approve the on-off sale malt beverage license for Sick Vic's House of Horsepower as recommended by the Sheriff's Office.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D.
The last item is the order for organization and incorporation of the Eastern Pennington County Ambulance District. They had an election on July 10th. The vote was 264 yes, no 81. The motion needed is to accept the official returns of the organizational election of the Eastern Pennington County Ambulance District and issue the order of organization and incorporation effective with taxing authority for the 2012 tax year and after.
Mr. Chair, that
Yes.
would be my motion, and to affix the chair's signature to that document.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Next item is from Emergency Management. Dustin?
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Dustin Willett, Pennington County Emergency Manager. What I have before you today is a resolution and proclamation for a declaration of drought disaster in Pennington County. Farm Service Agency executive officer here in Pennington County contacted my office. He'd done a damage assessment, basically, looked and toured the county with different agricultural producers, looked at the impact to both crop and pasture that we're seeing now. That in conjunction with U.S. Drought Monitor that's listed Pennington County in moderate to severe drought conditions. The entire county is covered either by moderate or severe drought conditions as listed by the U.S. Drought Monitor for at least the last 6 weeks and probably going back a little before that. The other part of this is the predictive service of the U.S. Drought Center indicates, and obviously it's just an estimate or a scientific guess, but all the numbers indicate that the conditions we currently have will persist and or increase. We don't see any significant relief in sight for the ag folks, the ag producers in Pennington County. So this growing season's been a tough one for folks out there. I went out, it's been a steep learning curve for me as well. I went out last week with the Farm Service Agency and Chairman Peterson to get a better feel for exactly what was happening with the agricultural producers out there. And none of these numbers actually reflect any impact to livestock. This is all just crop and pasture. So before I read the resolution and proclamation, I guess one other thing to put in there before I continue on is the way this proclamation reads is still valid, but I received an email yesterday, 6 days ago. They passed, the federal government passed a revised or a refined rulemaking that allows this process to go even smoother and faster to get aid to those affected more quickly. So in the future, we won't actually have to petition the state. We won't have to petition the governor to take that to the Secretary of Agriculture at the federal level. The Farm Service Agency will be able to do that directly after the county declares an emergency. So while that rule went in place again on the 11th, 6 days ago, this process is still valid. Since we have it in the works, this will still go forward and still be valid. In the future, any such declaration will have some simplified rules to it, although it still will require action by the board to declare a disaster. If we declare this disaster, if the board so chooses to declare this disaster today, there really isn't I shouldn't say there really isn't, there isn't any direct impact to the county. The county doesn't pay any money, doesn't have any programs in place, county specific, to aid the agriculture producers. What this is by us is a recognition of the severity of the problem, and it allows again, this was a petition, but now it can go straight from Farm Service to Department of Agriculture at the federal level. But it opens up aid packages, some tax deferring programs, some low interest loan programs, allows them to access CRP land in a controlled fashion as allowed by statute. So basically it allows them, the agriculture producers impacted, to seek aid through the federal government. It doesn't encumber the county with any financial outlay or anything like that. It's just a conduit for federal assistance. So before I read the resolution and proclamation, I'd be happy to stand for any questions the board might have in regards to this particular issue.
Any questions by the board?
I do, it's just for personal understanding. I noticed in some of the information that you gave us that it talked about if Pennington County makes this resolution and proclamation, that the contiguous counties can be pulled in for those special programs. So that, does that mean like Custer County and Meade County, even if they don't declare the...
Yeah, basically the law is written with a somewhat of a common sense approach. Some producers aren't constrained by a county border. So if the intent of that law is if you have people around, I mean, the drought doesn't get to the Pennington County line and stop. So the idea is, and the other thing is it's not carte blanche. Just because you're an agricultural producer in Pennington County does not mean, even though we declare a disaster, it doesn't mean that you can automatically apply and receive aid. It allows you to make that application to the government. You still have to prove that you have that financial impact. So even the people in the contiguous counties, if they wanted to apply for those federal programs under our declaration, they would still have to prove through those mechanisms that they're being impacted by the drought.
I wanted that clarified in my mind. I've had some questions from people who straddle the line, so.
And that's what that wording is there for, is for people that are on that border.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just have a comment, Mr. Chair. Dustin and Mr. Peterson, you did a good job putting this together and going out and surveying the problem. And I'm glad to see that you both did that. Thank you.
Dustin did all the work.
That's what I'm paid to do.
I understand you got a good education.
Yes, like I said, this was, I'm not to take too much heat on my shoulder over this comment, but I'm not a farm boy. I'm more of a city boy, so the agricultural stuff is a steep learning curve for me. But had some good teachers, obviously, for one day, and there's a lot more to learn. But that's a part of the county. It's a huge part of the county, and it was good for me to get some indoctrination on that side of county operations. So.
Okay, proceed.
All right. So what I have before you is a declaration of local emergency, drought, disaster resolution, and proclamation for Pennington County. Whereas the Pennington County Board of Commissioners at their regular meeting on July 17th, 2012, do hereby enact the following resolution. Whereas the Director of Emergency Management of Pennington County does or did hereby find, with the assistance of the Pennington County Farm Service Agency Executive Director, that the 2012 growing season for commodity crops and pasture land in Pennington County has experienced 45% lower than average precipitation and 11% higher than average temperatures. 2, that the United States Drought Monitor currently shows all of Pennington County in moderate or severe drought conditions as based on the Palmer Drought Severity Index, and predicts drought conditions in Pennington County to persist or intensify throughout the year. And 3, that the Farm Service Agency has identified 33,000 acres of damaged crops in Pennington County, resulting in a loss of over $3.6 million, and 288,000 acres of damaged pasture land, resulting in a loss of over $2.8 million. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved and proclaimed that a drought disaster does now exist throughout the county, and be it further resolved that the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, for and on behalf of the citizens of Pennington County, requests that the Governor of the State of South Dakota petition the Secretary of Agriculture to declare Pennington County a drought disaster area. And it is further proclaimed and ordered that during the existence of said emergency, the powers, functions, and duties of the Emergency Management Office of Pennington County shall be or were those prescribed by state law and the ordinances, resolutions, and approved plans of Pennington County in order to mitigate the effects of said emergency. And then it has a date and requests the signature of the Chairman of the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would make a motion to approve that recommendation as presented and affix the chair's signature to that document.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just one, before we sign it, I hope we.
Drought.
Yeah, correct that.
Yep.
It's going to go to the Secretary of Agriculture.
Absolutely.
I noticed he read it right, but did have a misspell.
And I did pause.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you,
Commissioners.
We have item 21 removed from the agenda. So we move to item 22. Is there someone here to address that?
Good morning. Dennis Mallow, Chairman of the Pennington County Fire Service Board. Also part of our FEMA grant was for new pagers for all of the volunteer fire departments in the county. We went out, put some bids together, some specs, went out for bid. At our meeting last week, we opened bids, and on your sheet, the three companies that submitted bids are listed. We approved going with Wolf Communications for the purchase of 536 alphanumeric Swiss phone DE 925 pagers. And that again will supply every volunteer fire department in the county with a new pager, and some of the old Swiss phone pagers that we have, we will bring back in and use as reserves, and also possibly give some to the Pennington County Search and Rescue for their use. Some of the ambulance services that are in the county. When we first went to this system, everybody was using some Motorola's. It's kind of a hodgepodge of pagers that are out there, and we have found that the Swiss phones have worked best. And that's what we have requested here. Are there any questions?
Any questions or comments by the commission?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I have one question. I caught someplace in there that it said pager phone.
It's a Swiss phone pager. That's the company name is called Swiss Phone.
Okay, is this going to have a monthly charge to anything, or just, okay?
Nope.
That's what I'm.
Right now, well, I can show you what one of them is. It looks just like this. There's a bunch of departments that already have them. And we will recoup a bunch of those and hand them out and use them as spares. But they're just a plain alphanumeric pager.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion?
I would move to award the bids to the lowest responsible bidder of Wolf Communications, 1100 Ladd Landing Boulevard, number 28, Kingston, Tennessee, 37763, at a cost of $165 per pager for a total of $88,440 plus $140 in total freight charges.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other comments? From the audience? From the board? We'll just take a brief.
Not a problem.
Ready to vote?
Absolutely.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure the money was there when we did what we did.
Thank you for being here. Next item is item 23A, and that brings up the Highway Department. This is Sunset Road Ranch
Road request.
Road District request.
Yes.
Continued from the 3rd of July.
I don't know, I don't see the gentleman here again, but I guess if we want to discuss the issue, Sunset Ranch subdivision, they are a road district. I contacted them earlier this year about chip sealing a portion of asphalt road about 1.7 miles that leads from 1416. We have a little bit, if you look at your map, a little bit of that road is on the county, and then the rest. The developer was requested to rebuild that road and pave it when he did the subdivision. And then he was also required to, and I have a typo on my map, but it's 2.9 miles of 229th Street. All that was just a section line, unimproved section line. He was required to rebuild that to county standards and put 4 inches of gravel on it as a secondary access. The developer was required to rebuild those roads, and he was required to submit a 5-year maintenance agreement, which never happened, I guess. But the 5 years would have expired in 2010 anyway. The concern I have is Sunset Ranch Road District. If you look at the second map, the boundaries of their road district only includes a small portion of this asphalt. There was a big investment put into this road. It was rebuilt, 6 inches of gravel put on it, and 2.5 inches of asphalt. I hate to see it deteriorate and go to pieces. The road district says they cannot generate enough money to maintain that portion of asphalt road. And I guess I never say we should add roads to the county highway system, but I feel in this case, the investment that was put into the public section lines, which section lines are by operational law, county secondary road. It's just the only question the commissioners have is, do we maintain it or not? And if we do maintain it, what level? This is a unique situation, and I guess I would ask the commissioners to consider adding these portions of road to the county secondary highway system as full maintenance roads. We do have, there's a small portion of the asphalt within the road district. I will tell them that they're gonna have to pay for that portion and see where we get, but either we add them or we just leave them go and deteriorate, so. I don't know, I'm caught in between.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Heine, I understand the developer in this process is Caskey Homes, is that right?
Correct.
And they did not do what the original agreement was?
They've maintained the road for 5 years. We just never got a formal written agreement, but we had a couple big storms that washed some shoulders away, and there was a severe bump at the railroad tracks, and they did repair those, but now the 5 years is up, and there's no way we can go back to them and force them to do any more road repairs. The only way you'd ever get the developer involved again, and I guess Dan could correct me if he's here, is that if he decides to subdivide or do any more work, then we'd have the opportunity to say you need to do this and do that. But right now, by law, I don't think we can go back to the developer and force them to do anything. But the road needs maintenance today, and it should be chip sealed. If you don't chip seal it, you're not going to get a 20-year life out of it. And so, I mean, that's where we're at.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Jay is here, and I'll give him a heads up. He's reading some papers there, so I don't want him to get blindsided. We're dealing with a road district that's already in place.
Correct.
So can the county legally go out there in a road district and spend taxpayers' money on this road district when they are taxing and taking unorganized road money and putting it into their bank account?
Well, I intend to bill them for the portions of road within their boundaries. I still, the little portion of asphalt road that's within their boundaries, and the piece of 229th, I only intended to go to the asphalt portion. I was not gonna maintain anything further to the west. That would still be their responsibility. And as of July 1st, they cannot go outside their boundary and maintain a road unless they got approval from the adjoining landowners. I did entertain the thought that maybe they could expand their boundaries and annex in that ag land, and then those ranchers would be paying whatever their levy is, but there's another portion of that ag land they can ask that to be removed from the road district because it doesn't serve the same purpose. I think Howie did that on a road district. They had put a bunch of his ag land within the boundaries, and then they came in and petitioned the commissioners and got it removed, so. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, what do we do? Do we let the roads go to pot, or do we decide to maintain them, or maybe don't put them on as full maintenance, just put them on as I don't know what term you'd use, partial or something, but I hate to see the roads go all to pot.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Do we know that is the boundary of that road district? It looks on one map, and who knows because of the way it's drawn, but does that include that road? Is that road not included in the road district? Where are we at?
It goes down the center of the section line.
So they would be responsible for half of that
Of
road
that
along
little
there.
portion, yes.
And Julie, have you done any looking on this? I know in his letter it says, we just can't collect any money. Are they collecting any money out there from the landowners? Or maybe you haven't looked at that, I don't know.
I haven't looked at that. I could go check, but any road district can do an opt-out for any amount that they need.
I mean, they're bound by the CPI too, like we are, but they can do an
They
opt-out.
can do an opt-out.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Heine, what about 155th Avenue? Does that road extend on past the portion that you've got it's marked as a county?
No, it dead ends right there.
Dead ends right
and we
there.
maintain that little portion.
And that just accesses that place off to the west?
Yep. There's a residence down there, and then it provides access to the remainder of that land.
Okay, but
Pasture land.
it doesn't do anything for this development.
No. They don't use that to access the development.
And
There's no road that ties the development to
that.
that section line.
okay, they access off of 158 or 156th. Is that correct?
They access off of 1416, Highway 1416. And then 229 is a secondary access for fire emergency.
Okay.
Because there is, between 1416 and the development, there's a creek runs through there. It gets pretty wild, so there's times when it's overtopped and you can't get out of there. So the board, that's why the board at that time made the developer build a road on 229, so.
So when you are saying that you would have the development road district assist in paying for part of this if they would pay for it, you're just talking about that small section that of 156th that
Within
they
their
would work
boundary.
within their boundaries.
Abutting their boundary line, yes.
And is all of that road that you're talking about, the 156th and the 229th Street, you say that's all meets county standards right now?
Correct.
Okay. You got the money in your budget to cover this if we put it under your system?
Yes, I could take care of that with unorganized road funds.
But we wouldn't get any unorganized roads funds from.
Not from that little portion, no. We don't get any from that because they're a road district, so we don't get any funds from that road district. That's why I felt it'd be fair to bill them for the portion of road within their boundaries.
So you're recommending that we bring this on so that you can maintain it and keep it in good condition?
I would have to say that. I just hate to see the investment put into that public road just deteriorate and 5 to 6 years from now, it's full of potholes and whatever. They're gonna be back wanting us to fix it anyway. They'll never be able to afford it, so I guess, yes, I would say this is one case where I think it's in the best interest of all the taxpayers to keep that road in decent condition.
Plus, there is some emergency access issues that really make it maybe a little more important too to keep up.
Yeah, that gravel, they gravelled that 229th, the east-west portion that's gravel. That basically turned into a mud road, and it was rutted, and trucks couldn't get through it anymore. And Caskey Homes went in there a couple of years ago, and they put another lift of gravel on it and bladed it up. So they've tried to maintain that and do what they were supposed to do according to the subdivision regulations by maintaining it for 5 years, which they've lived up to their commitment. And I knew at the time when the board discussed this and approved it, that at some point in time in the future, it was gonna come up, how's it gonna be maintained and so. But that's what a lot of the developers have done in Rapid Valley. They built the roads and they disappeared and left the country, and there you sit with public right-of-ways, and what do you do with them? And that's why most of Rapid Valley now is county maintained, except the big issue with Big Sky, and someday that's probably gonna do the same way if it doesn't go into the city.
So, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we add 156th Avenue, what was that, 1.7?
It's, yeah, 1.7 for 156.
And 2.9 miles of 229th Street to the county secondary highway system and assume maintenance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And could part of that motion be that we would build that road district for their share of doing that?
Yes,
Okay.
right, I would add that, yes.
Yeah, put that in the motion, and that gives it a little more teeth, provided that the road district
Okay.
continues to pay for the maintenance of their portion. Yeah, that'd be a good wording.
Okay, before we vote on this, let's make sure our secretary understands the motion and the amendment, or the addition. You comfortable with that?
I will, before she does the final motion, I'll give her the legal description, because I'll have to describe that as beginning at the northeast section of so-and-so proceeding. I'll get that to you. And we can add that to the motion, just a legal description.
Thank you. Further comments from the audience?
Mr. Chairman, Dan Richer. A couple of questions. Before you jump into this, could you find out from the auditor if they are actually collecting money or if they're not?
Excuse me, I didn't hear.
If they're actually collecting money, or are they not? Because if we send them a bill and they're not able to collect the money, we're gonna get stuck with it. So I'm asking if the auditor can confirm that, maybe hold it off for another meeting or something to find this information. Because if his letter says that they can't collect any money, if we bill them, what are you gonna? What's the recourse?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I think Jay is sitting in the back of the room, but I believe that we could put a lien against the property
I don't know that.
in a road district.
I don't know that for sure, I guess.
But
I'm hearing a lot of different things today that you're raising a bunch of legal questions that I don't have the answers for off the top of my head. So I'll have to get with Heine and find out exactly what's being proposed and what recourse there would be. But off the top of my head, I'm not willing to say that that's absolutely for sure.
I do know that they're collecting funds. They do have a levy established, because he said they're paying for snow removal and blading their roads. But I guess if you wanted to continue this to the next meeting to find those answers, what levy they have and what amount of money they're collecting, we can sure do that.
Mr. Chairman. I think we need to do that because something is not right about this, that we're not getting unorganized road funds. They're getting them, and now that, well, we don't have any money. Well, we're not getting anything out of them then. And it's their road, it's their access. I don't feel comfortable having taxpayers fund their road in case there's a fire out there. That's not the taxpayer's problem, it's their problem. But I guess, I know we probably required them to have it, but I don't like this whole thing.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm going to support the motion. I think we should move forward with this. If they are or are not collecting money, we can make a determination on what other additional actions we might want to take. But the end of the day, whether they are or not collecting money, I don't think is going to make any difference on what the real issue is, and that is, do we let this road deteriorate, or do we have the county highway department take care of it? We either take care of it before it gets a bunch of potholes in it, or we're going to be revisiting this, or some board's going to revisit it in the future. So I'm going to support the motion as it stands.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Have a roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
I defer.
Peterson?
No.
No, you gained a lot by that, didn't you?
I was just waiting for Jay and Julie to, did you come up with anything back there? We're right in the middle of a vote, so I hate to stall this, but.
I think.
As I understand kind of the motion.
I'm going to object. I don't think we can do this in the middle of the vote.
I don't think we can either.
Giving out opinions and
I'm
everything.
gonna have to vote no. And so, Jay, now if you can maybe.
Okay, the motion failed. Is there any other motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to have our auditor do some research on that road district and what funds are there, and to put it on the agenda for reconsideration at the next meeting.
Reconsideration of the issue.
Of this question, yes.
Is there a second to that motion? I'll second it.
Mr. Chair, along with that motion, I'm probably going to support it, but Julie, when you can tell how much money they're getting, but you can't tell how much money they have in the bank. They have a bank account, or do they give you that information on an annual basis, or?
No, road districts don't have to give us that information, but I can tell you what's levied, and that will give Jay some time also to look into the issue if we can file a lien or not.
So if we want to know how much money they have available to pay this, they're going to have to voluntarily give that because it's a personal bank account for the road district.
Actually, they're a government entity, so it would be public information.
Would it? Okay. That answered that question. Thank you. And then we can find out without any problem.
I might ask if in the interim it's possible for Heine or someone to get an agreement from them that they would cost share their legitimate portion, and that any work done would be contingent on that.
Or you're asking?
Well,
What was that, I guess?
if this motion passes, that this will be placed on the agenda next time, if between now and then it would be possible to get an agreement with them, a commitment saying that they would bear their proportionate share of the cost.
Yes, I'll contact them. I know Holly sent him an email saying this was. Yeah, he said he'd be here today. I will contact him and get an estimate on what it's going to cost to a detailed estimate, the cost to chip seal that and measure that portion within the road district, and tell him he will need to be prepared to answer that question at the next meeting.
Thank you. Jay, did you have anything further?
Just a clarification on what happened here. As I understood it, that there was a motion to approve, and that failed. So there was really no action taken in the affirmative. So there's really nothing to reconsider. But Commissioner Buskerud has asked that, in essence, what he has done is said, I give notice that I may bring the item up again at our next meeting. So I don't think there's really a vote that needs to be taken today on a motion to reconsider. The motion just failed. There was nothing approved. So you're not reconsidering affirmative action. So you can just put it on the agenda for the next meeting and have a new motion. But regardless, at a fail-safe measure, Commissioner Buskerud said, if you want to call it the prevailing side, meaning the side that voted against it, he's given a notice that he'd like it brought up at the next meeting, so that's perfectly fine.
If it does not appear on the next agenda,
What's that?
someone didn't get the message.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in information.
We have comments, please.
That's all I have. Oh.
Good morning. I'd like to know how much tax they're not paying and have not paid since it became a road district. Tax to us. I pay unorganized road tax, and they're exempt.
Yeah, you are George Fairby, right?
Yes.
I think that's a good question.
Yeah. And that possibly information can be brought forward, I'm sure. Any further discussion on item 23? If not, we move to item 24. The proposed Cane Creek land exchange. And Holly, will you set the stage, please?
At your last meeting, you had a presentation from Mr. Michael McNeil of the U.S. Forest Service on a proposed land exchange. What I've done is prepared a letter for the commission's signature based on comments that I received or gathered from our last meeting. Basically that the commission is not in favor of this. So we need to discuss that if that's the position you wish to take. I did ask Shannon, our Director of Equalization, to put together some additional information on the impact that this will have, and he has presented you with a memo and a map. So I'd like to ask him to explain that information for us.
Thank you. Shannon?
I thought it was self-explanatory. Do you have any questions?
Oh, here we are.
Yeah.
It's up here.
It's not self-explanatory to all of us.
Then what is your question?
On the back of the first page, there's U.S. parcel number, and then below that, is that what is being transferred from the feds? And the ones below that are the ones that are being acquired?
The column that says U.S. parcel number is how the U.S. Forest Service identifies each of these parcels. Mm-hmm. The next column then is our county parcel numbers. That was just for my organization, so I could figure out which one these are. Go all the way over to the right. You can see the top 2, 4, 6, 7 of them are Nature Conservancy properties, and then the lower are the federal. Only in Pennington County. I only looked at Pennington County. There's a couple other counties involved.
So we're gaining 664 acres and losing 3,090 of taxable property.
No, the potential to do that. On the front page, one of the disclaimers that I added was that this is a value for value exchange, not acre for acre, but value for value, and they are in the process of an appraisal right now. So they don't know what value they have. Once they figure that out, then they'll decide exactly what land they changed. And the Forest Service told me it'll likely be less deeded land that's exchanged.
But that value for value is throughout the entire process, not just in Pennington County.
That's right, yep.
So we're
Yep.
losing more in Pennington than we're gaining.
Probably, yes, but not all of the acres identified here. In fact, Nature Conservancy indicated to me that they might only trade around 2,000 acres. But there's more land in other counties.
And the value is not your value, it's their value.
There's an
And you
appraisal in
base-
process.
You don't use their values for your taxation purposes, do you?
No. And they are hiring an independent appraiser to do an appraisal for this project. I just know that because that appraiser was in our office.
So, the top portion up here where it says 3,089 acres, that's what we're losing or potentially?
That is the land that is up for exchange. They don't know exactly how much of that they will exchange.
And then the bottom portion is what they're saying that they would,
Federal property that'll be exchanged for that deeded.
okay.
But there's more, and I think that all of the deeded land is in Pennington County, but there's quite a bit more federal property in other counties.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, this happens almost every time one of these exchanges happen. It's Pennington County who seems to have the most loss because we always have the most taken off of our tax rolls, but they exchange it for something in Custer County or in Meade County or in Lawrence County. And those counties suffer less than what Pennington County does. And it's a consistently reoccurring issue. And I just absolutely can't support these sorts of things. It's very frustrating to me that we kind of seem to always take that biggest hit and we don't get any guarantee of anything from the feds. You know, if they would set up their payment in lieu of taxes to be permanent or something, that would be a different story. But they don't do that for us, and we continually get hit whenever something like this happens.
But isn't it true they're gonna do this whether we agree with it or not?
Yeah, but you
They
still
can, but
should
they-
argue with them.
Well, make a motion to
Yeah.
resist it, and I'll second it.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we go ahead with Holly's letter to let the federal government know that we are against this land exchange.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments? We do have comments from the audience. Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
I'm Martha Witcher with Emily Township number 24. I would like to thank the commission for their support of supporting not doing this. In your packet, you'll see a statement that our township did make to you. There are a lot of questions that we have, and I want to let the commission know that as clerk of the township, we are aggressively working with Congressman Thune's office. We're working to find out what laws, what rights. I don't know if they can go ahead and do this without some type of input from townships and the county. So I want to thank you for your support, and we're supporting you as well aggressively. We do not want any more government property at all in our township.
Well, thank you for thanking us, but we only got two, we got the motion, we don't have the vote yet, so you need three people.
You got the third one right here. I don't know where the others are
Thank you for your time and for even hearing our concerns. We had two commissioners come to a Strout Growers meeting, and I really appreciate that. We all do down there. So we're aggressively going to continue to look into this, and I'll keep you posted. And Holly's been a lot of help, and everybody's been helpful. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just for a little enlightenment, and of course you were there at the stock growers and as well as I, but there was a lot of interesting questions came up at that stock growers meeting that just threw lots of dirt in the air about this thing. And I have some real problems with the Forest Service and their sharing a pillow together with the Nature Conservancy group. And the only one that looks to me like is going to lose out on this is the Pennington County taxpayers and the stock growers and their grazing rights. And then along with the townships, they're going to lose big time. I'll just leave it at that. There's a lot more I could say, but I'm not going to support the motion.
I feel compelled to comment just briefly. I could talk for a long time, but among other things, that some of the paperwork that I've seen indicates that Nature Conservancy will gain about 1,000 acres in the trade. In other words, they will get more federal acres than they will be giving up in the acres that they have deeded to them. And that and a number of other things make the whole process suspect and questionable when you talk about the discipline that should surround government activities.
Correct.
So, any further comments?
Mr. Chair, I do have one more brief comment. I think it's time that all parties involved in operations like this across the country, not just here in South Dakota, but across the nation, be honest and above board about what is happening and what they're doing with taxpayers' money, and why they're doing it, who they're doing it with, and who's going to benefit the most.
Any further comments? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Commissioner Peterson, the letter is right there on top of your green folder. If you could sign it and pass it down, we need all signatures.
Better read it first. You just re-enlisted for 4 more years.
I think while signatures being placed on that letter, we can proceed to agenda item 25 and item A. These are legislative resolutions, and I'm not sure if Jay presents these or how is that to be addressed.
I guess to speak to, I don't know if Holly has some comment, but I was prepared to speak to the fireworks issue. I've not had any involvement in the TIF resolution or any of the other proposed resolutions.
Okay. We'd hate to have you do anything unprepared.
The resolution with regard to the fireworks, I kind of started one there. You received a memo from me, I think it was part of the packet, that outlined all of my concerns that I've kind of gathered over the months and frankly this past year for the most part from a number of different folks trying to decipher and understand the full scope and nature of the state regulations regarding fireworks. And I'm leaving burn ban out of the context of this discussion because it has nothing to do with fireworks. It's an entirely separate matter. So this is strictly about fireworks regulation on the county level. And I provided you with a couple of the main issue questions and then some different options. And I guess I don't know at this point where, which option. The one question with regard to public display, there really is only one option, and that is to just make it clear. I think the majority of folks I've talked to would assume, and as I understand the practice across the state is to allow or have like counties, for instance, allow public displays any day of the year that they feel it's appropriate and somebody applies and so forth. But the statute even in that regard is vague, ambiguous, and could is in need of some work. So I proposed changing that to make it abundantly clear, without exception, that public displays can be authorized for any day of the year, and to further clarify that county governments may put conditions on that in any manner they so choose in the public health and safety arena. So that statute I already put in the resolution. The reason I left the rest of the resolution blank is because now, with regard to the use and sale of fireworks, counties' hands are tied significantly by statute in that regard, and I gave 3 different options of how you might want to address the use and sale of fireworks. And I don't know so much, frankly, that the sale of fireworks was that big of an issue this year for the county. It's really about the use and what days of the year you're authorized to prohibit fireworks, the fact that it's tied to the fire danger index, which is, if Denny were here, he would be able to probably agree wholeheartedly, is very cumbersome. Law enforcement had a heck of a time this year trying to stay on top of those issues and alert the public to when it's extreme and when it's not, and when you can use fireworks and when you can't, and it was a mess. So before you are those 3 options. One option would be to authorize counties the same level of authority that municipalities have, which is carte blanche authority to prohibit fireworks for any reason at any time of the year, period. No questions asked, done. Counties don't have that authority. I suppose, I'm going out on a limb here, but I suppose the purpose of that was that there's got to be somewhere to shoot fireworks, and if the cities have the authority to shut them down there, people are going to go out in the county, and we have to have some room to do that. And it appears the legislature said counties can regulate the use of fireworks outside of municipalities, but not on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th of July. That's unregulated. And to the extent counties desire to regulate fireworks outside of municipalities on all those other days, it's tied to this index. So the first option would be to jettison all of that and simply have carte blanche authority to pass an ordinance regulating them as you see fit, and that's what the cities have. Then I give you 2 other options to essentially clean up the statutes, to still have the fire index involved, but to authorize clearly the ability to prohibit fireworks on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th when the index would indicate that would be the appropriate logical thing to do. And then finally, the 3rd option, I believe, was to leave the index as part of the statute, but to leave the 3rd, 4th, and 5th off the table and unregulatable. I'm not sure that's a word, but so I guess I'm waiting for direction from the board as to which option they think is, and I'm just being honest with you, the option of giving you the same authority as municipalities, that probably will go over like a lead balloon in Pierre, just being honest. The other option of making clear that the 3rd, 4th, and 5th is prohibitable but tied to the index, and otherwise cleaning up the language of the index, that's probably a more workable option to take to Pierre, but that's...
Hey, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Jay, have you, I know you contacted the Attorney General on whether or not we could regulate it on the 3rd, 4th, and through the 6th, I think it is.
Through the 5th.
Through the 5th. Have you gotten any word back? Has he given you any opinions on that yet?
They're as confused as anyone else is, frankly, on that, and there's no clear indication. And the folks, as you see in my memo, the people I've talked to that have had a direct involvement in passing that original legislation, 100% unanimously tell me that in Pierre, when that was passed, it was clear that the 3rd, 4th, and 5th were off limits. Counties were not intended to be given authority to prohibit fireworks on those 3 days of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One of the things, I was just at a meeting last week, and Jim Streen from Wildland Fire was there, and I have sent him this information on. And tomorrow he's on the advisory board for the state fire marshal, and he's gonna present this. And I think it would be very interesting to see because he believes they will be supporting one of these positions. And it's kind of you know, that's going to have a major effect on what happens with our proposal. So, and he didn't indicate to me which way that was going to go, but he felt that they're very concerned, and he really appreciated your research and your thoughtful recommendations. And you know, I know we're kind of on a time limit with this resolution here, but I would hate to have us support something that they weren't going to support, because I think that they would be a great deal of help to us to get something done. And I told him that it was only, my belief is that we should have the same authority as the cities. But, you know, I'm not sure that's what they would support.
When's their meeting?
Tomorrow in Pierre.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think it's totally ignorant, and I see no purpose in letting the cities regulate it, but the county's not. We're really the ones that have a much worse fire danger than the city does. And then to say, well, no, you can't do it up until July 3rd, and then it doesn't matter if half the state is on fire, we're going to let you shoot fireworks anyway. In this county, you can't do anything about it. It blows your mind. You're also right, because I've tried it before, that to get something through in Pierre against fireworks, they have a very, very strong lobby. But I am supportive of Commissioner Troutman that we try to get exactly what the city does, and that's to ban them if we feel like it. That's my position.
And I just think, I hate to get bogged down in some of the details, but in my memo, you know, I talk about the different class of offense, talk about changing some language with regard to the index. I think those are matters that need to go to peer as well for clarification. One item I thought of literally over the weekend that's not in here, and I guess this is the only time I intend to bring up the word burn ban here today, is for an analysis or an analogy. The burn ban by statute is open to however you want to regulate it. And so we did that, or you did that, through an ordinance. By state statute, ordinances are only, a violation is only punishable by the equivalent of a Class 2 misdemeanor. So the confusion in the state, in the chapter of the code with regard to the use of fireworks, I think it ought to be consistent so that the violation of fireworks is at least consistent with violation of burn ban. And so that's why I was proposing the Class 2 is probably a logical consistency across the board.
Will we give out tickets for it actually, though?
If there's something clear, maybe. You know, that's been one of the problems too, is just how ambiguous this is. Law enforcement, I feel horrible for the difficult position they've been placed in, trying to figure out what they're supposed to do under a horribly ambiguous statute, and then the index going up and down with the variant that I showed you in my memo. It's absurd. And they've been trying to struggle with that and trying to stay on top of it, and I don't know how they do it.
Mr. Chair, going along with what Jay is saying there, and I wished I'd have printed that out, because I did get an email from 911 because I had a call from a woman that says, you aren't doing anything about enforcing all this. So I asked the sheriff. He went to 911, and if I remember right, between the hours of 8 o'clock and midnight on the 4th of July, they had 482 calls, I believe that was the number, for illegal fireworks and such outside of the municipality, basically out in the valley. And I asked him, what did you do in your spare time? So, yeah, it is. It's just wrong the way it's written, and I don't know how anybody deciphered.
Julie?
I don't know if this will help the board or hinder or nothing at all. But this resolution that you're passing is part of a process. It will go to the Black Hills Association on Friday and can be amended at that point. It will then go to state convention and it can be amended at that point. So you may want to put forth all three ideas to the Black Hills Association to say, this, we want something. This one we don't think, this is the one we kind of support, but we don't think we'll get a total total control. And then when you take it to the state convention, it can also be amended, if it's like ours, it can be amended at that point. Then you will get the consensus of the rest of the commissioners as to what you think your strongest point will be going forward.
Okay.
Just food for thought.
That's a good observation. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
I think that's a good suggestion that the auditor has. I would like to see us, if we're going to send several options in, I would like to see us have as a part of the option that allows the county to regulate fireworks using the South Dakota Fire Index. I'd like to have the sale of fireworks be connected with that as well, because it seems crazy to allow people to continue to sell fireworks when we've got an ordinance that says you can't shoot them off. So I think that would put that would not have those people going out and buying fireworks and then saying, geez, I bought all these fireworks and now you people say I can't shoot them off anywhere, and then they'd just do it anyway. So I'd like to see that be a part of it if the rest of the board would agree to that.
Commissioner Busker, do you have some official position in the hierarchy of the association and all that? So since, given that, you need to guide us in terms of the best way to move forward.
I would agree with our auditor that on Friday, take it to Sturgis at the meeting and just say, we want to do something resolution-wise. Here's the three options we've come up with. If we want to say we lean toward this one, fine. If not, we'll just present the three options and say, where do you want to go from here? It's surprising that some counties that are in the Black Hills Association don't always agree with us.
I'm sure that
that could well be here too, but I think that was a good way to start, and that would be, I think, the way to start.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Funny, Mr. Busker said that they don't always agree with us. It seems to me that last year when we tried to get that ordinance through about registered sex offenders and circulating petitions, that the people from the back east shot us down on that in the association. And I'd be willing to buy lunch for all of the county commissioners if I'm wrong, but my guess is that they'll turn this down too. And maybe it's time that we take a look at how much money we're giving that organization, if that happens.
Fortunately, that's not the only avenue available, but...
No, that's right. But, and we went around them with the ordinance on the registered sex offenders, but...
And Mr. Chairman, if someday we will have to make up our mind what we want, because even if the association turns it all down, you're right, we can go straight to a legislator and say, here's what we want, and they'll do it that way. So if you don't have the association backing, however, you lose a lot of traction that way, but it can be done.
It would be helpful, yes. I'm wondering if, what kind of a motion we need, if any.
I could suggest one thing, I guess. What I'm hearing is you might want to include the sale of fireworks in well, the first option. Let's go to that for a second here.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I have a little problem with that prohibiting the sale, because people can buy those and take them out of state, take them home with them, put them in the trunk of their car, they get overheated and blow up, whatever. But that bothers me a little bit that we're going to prohibit a sale.
We could use the same language, though, that the state uses. I mean, they prohibit the sale other than to out-of-state people. I think, don't they? That's my understanding.
Up to a certain date.
Yeah. You're right about that, yeah.
I guess I could, in option number one, I have in there, prohibit the use or sell. In option, 2 and 3, as I point out in the memo, I didn't include that in there, so if you wanted me to, I guess part of the motion would need to be present or put forward all 3 options and add the sale in options 2 and 3. If that's not what you want, then you could just do a motion to present all 3 options as they appear in the memo, and I can put that in the resolution.
Well, just so we can get a consensus from the board, and I guess you do that by voting, I would make a motion to include the sale in options 2 and 3.
I'll second that.
Is there a second?
She said.
Nancy did.
Oh, I didn't hear her.
I'm sorry. Second, I was talking.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just quickly, I made an offer to buy the county commissioner's lunch if I'm wrong, and I have no means, way, shape, or form of having an illegal meeting, so I'll volunteer to take a member of the news media with us so he knows what we're talking about.
Is that part of the motion?
Yes, no, it's not.
You have the means to buy it.
Hmm?
You have the means to buy it.
I can.
He'll turn it in.
We'll ask the county auditor.
Yeah, no.
But anyway, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
will, if I get information from Jim Strain Thursday, I'll get that out to everybody as soon as I get it on your email.
Thank you. No further comments. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And we have a resolution somewhat aimed in the same direction, 2 resolutions, one on tax increments financing and one supporting the Black Hills Regional Mountain Pine Beetle Strategy. And I think the intent is that those 2 also, if approved by the board, would be carried forward to the Black Hills Association. Am I correct?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Maybe just a little bit of a clarification. The resolution for the mountain pine beetle, that was at the request of the Black Hills Association that they wanted to do this, and so it was prepared. So maybe the one that we take forward, on Friday, they're supposed to do that. That was already, that part is already taken care of, but on Friday, what we should take forward is to have that resolution as a South Dakota Association of County Commissioners rather than the Black Hills.
Okay.
Okay.
So is there some clarification needed in the wording of that?
Yeah, maybe at the top, instead of Black Hills, because we should have South Dakota and anywhere else that it refers to Black Hills Association. I think it's the last couple paragraphs. Should be South Dakota.
You're gonna be there Friday, right, correct?
I am. I've got copies. I'm ready to go.
Okay, great.
Okay, let's back up and take the tax increment separately. That one is aimed at, I believe, separating out the provisions of the tax increment based on the entity that institutes it. Am I correct?
Correct.
And
This particular resolution, I guess I'll have to defer to Holly on a
Yeah,
little bit.
Julie and I worked on this one
Okay.
together, so
I'm not
you
familiar
might be
with
out of the loop.
What Holly and I tried to put together on this was what our understanding from the board for this resolution, which I believe has been tried in the state legislature before, but it never hurts to try again. What the intent of this resolution is that, in a nutshell, that the approving authority, if it's the county or if it's the city, that when they consider the payback of the debt, they are only considering allocating their tax levy revenue. Just for instance, in 2012, pay 13, we lost $2,027,358.13 of county funds that we are providing services to those properties to repay the debt, and it should be within all cities of Pennington County, not just the city of Rapid.
Julie, also, wasn't, when they do this, they also get the school levy to apply towards their debt?
They get the school levy, but the school levy is reallocated the next year.
But there was money in those TIF districts that should have been going to the schools, that wasn't. It was going to pay that debt off.
Right. And this would mean that the only levy they use to repay the debt would be their own, whoever approves it. So when the county approved theirs 3, it would only be paid back by the county levy and on down the line. I think the counties and cities are the only governments that have the ability to issue a TIF.
And with this, I'm sorry, if I can just finish my thought process here. And just so it's clarified in my mind, and hopefully maybe the public as well, when we say that school levy is reallocated, it's reallocated to all the rest of the taxpayers in Pennington County, or in that school district.
Just in that school district. So they pay it twice.
They pay it twice.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So we really want to make sure that this language is such that there's no reallocation of school and county taxes, meaning that otherwise the rest of the taxpayers are going to pay that stuff twice, basically.
Yes, you would have to affect that law.
So you have to really make it clear that city, you're going to take your money and that's it.
That's it.
There's no you're not going to get it all and then reallocate the school and the county
schools.
part.
Yeah.
So we got to make sure that's clear.
Another factor in here, one of the paragraphs, county commission has 1 vote out on a 7-member board, and I've never understood exactly how a board gets formed, by whom, and when more than one entity is involved, it seemed like they would all have to be represented on a balanced basis.
This relates basically to the Rapid City. Yes.
The Rapid City mayor and council, I think, appointed that board, and I think it was just a token, put the county commissioner on there to.
I've never prevailed, I know that.
I don't think any county commissioner has ever prevailed.
I think that member started when the legislation failed and we started making such a push.
I mean, frankly, if we could get this law passed, I guess we could do away with our county commission representative on that city council board, because they would be just voting for their taxes.
Yeah. So you may not want to have that in there, but it is basically, there isn't any way you can influence a 7-member board with one person when they're all city.
I would almost guess that if we get this passed, that the number of TIFs will be reduced considerably.
I'm sure they will be.
But anyway.
Or they'll have to change the law that they last longer. If we could get that they couldn't layer upon layer upon layer, that would be a good accounting fix. But
so, County Auditor, do you recommend passing this resolution?
I do.
Do we have a motion?
Yep, I will make that motion.
Second.
Then we move this along.
You're very influential. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pine Beetle, Commissioner Troutman.
I would recommend that we proceed with having the South Dakota Association of County Commissioners move a resolution supporting the Black Hills Regional Mountain Pine Beetle Strategy.
That's a motion?
Yes.
Second? Anyone?
I hate to second them all.
I'll second it.
You have the motion, okay? Yes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Item 26, Capital for a Day Program in Hill City, South Dakota. Who addresses that?
I just had to put this on the agenda, and really to come out to the rest of the commission when it was going to be, and that maybe some of the other commissioners would like to attend. One of the Jerry Wright from the council, and I think one other city council person, and I have already said we were going to go. So, but we'd be more than happy to have everybody else.
Okay, so noted. Item 27, Holly.
Okay, now is the time of the year where the board can decide if they wish to nominate any programs or any other items for the 2012 County Achievement Award. Last year, Pennington County did win for the Crisis Care Center.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I believe that I would like to nominate Commissioner Troutman in the Outstanding Service Award for her work with the mountain pine beetle, getting it to the public, arranging for committees, getting together with the federal and other counties and statewide, and doing a, I think, marvelous job in that.
That was a motion?
And I think we should nominate her.
That was a motion?
That was a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second.
She can write her own resume in the back there.
Non-debatable motion. You have any rebuttal, Commissioner Troutman?
I call the question if she does.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Any further identified nominations of any kind?
Well, actually, I had thought that I would nominate Scott for that county achievement, but we could put two in.
Well, one is for Outstanding Service Award, which is what I nominated you for. There's also a County Achievement Award, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I would move that we nominate Scott Guffey and his mountain pine beetle program that he has worked so diligently on for the 2012 County Achievement Award.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, got those two. Next item is the request for funding from WAHI.
Yes, item C is just a letter that we received in the mail from an organization called Hawaii Inc., requesting a stipend of $500 per person from the county in which they reside in. Currently, they say that we have 4 individuals from Pennington that they support and are requesting $2,000 from the county. And I apologize, I don't know anything about this organization. I went online and printed their who we are off of their website to try and get you some additional information.
Mr. Chair, I could take $500 and enlighten my life considerably. So I'd make a motion to deny.
I'm going to second that.
Any further comments? We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to support the motion, not necessarily because of the organization, but it's a little late in the year to be doing this. And if they want to reapply next year and give us a little more information, I might consider it.
It would strike me that there's a number of technical questions, including what the relationship of their clients are to Pennington being their home county, that whether they're born and never lived here or what. But I think it's pretty vague, and we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Items from the chair. Can we move that down a little ways? Is there any problem with that? Because I just soon get to item 29 if we can. And with the board's agreement, we'll just move on to item 29. So Tanner? Dan?
This is road construction within a section line for Tanner Hancock.
Dan, do you have a computer pictures on this thing? You want to get it started first?
I printed some if you want to see a print. I can get on there if you want.
I can bring it up on Rapid Map too.
Okay. Can't print. Just like that. It's kind of a further out view so you can see there's nothing around. Close one if you want. Just a little highlighted area that you can't see.
Just more.
You want to go ahead, Tanner, and, or whoever, and get our thoughts going anyway.
Okay, well, what Dan was gonna say is I'm just applying for, permission to, construct a road within the section line right of way. It's right by the city of Wall. I took Lindell down there and showed him where I was proposing it a couple weeks ago, and I've gone through every other option as far as trying to get a approach put in. And this is the only option that I feel, it's the best option, first of all. The only reason it was my last option is because I was kind of nervous to come up here, so.
Don't be.
So, as you can see, there's nothing around there. It's and there is with variance to ordinance 14, that's part of it. The section line, as you can see, runs right into the dam, so there'll never be any other, not in my lifetime anyway, I don't believe anything going through there. I'm getting ready to build a house there, my family and I, and just wanting to use that section line. My property is on the east side of that section line, so there's 13 acres there.
I might just mention that at the time Tanner and Randy Walker, the foreman of the highway department, and I went out there on the curve, that yellow curve that you see there. A county maintainer was working to lay the roadway straight into the Newtown Dam Road, or where it says that, in order that when you come over the hill south, you come straight in and intersect that road at a right angle. And so in the mix of things, what Tanner is proposing just follows right in with that.
Yeah. It was offset, that road that he's talking about that they moved. I know they didn't move it on my behalf, it was just something they're getting ready. It was offset off the section line a little ways, and it just didn't make sense the way you had to go into that corner a little ways and then it went straight. But now it's just a straight shot, it would be a straight shot into my driveway, and I don't see as to why there would be any problem with this, but I don't have that authority, so.
You know, Mr. Chair, this, what you just said reflected kind of what the city said. We looked at one of these a couple months ago down off 79, the Chiltern property, and it was a similar thing.
Yeah, it just looks like when they originally built that road, it was offset off the section.
And
line,
they would rather have it straight and have right angle corners.
Yep, and that's what I intend to do is all 90 off of it and then enter my residence, so.
Dan?
And I did route this to the utility companies in the area, also the County Highway Department, and got their comments. They are okay with this location and building this road within that area. I even talked to Heine Jungi about it, and he's okay with the 16-foot wide road as long as it's just used as a driveway at this time. If they go to further expand it down the road, yes, then we would look at it again to review it to see if it needs further expansion. Ordinance 14 does require it to be built to a certain standard, and he's asking to reduce it down to the 16-foot wide driving surface.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question for you, Dan. You know, when we looked at that property south of town here, I don't remember that we required all this stormwater stuff. And
I actually took these conditions right from that same staff report, so it was part of that one also.
I just didn't remember that. I guess I'm thinking that's erosion control, all of that is much more than what we ever discussed that day.
It was.
So you took it word for word from there?
Yes, I did.
Just don't remember you doing that. That was for the Tiltron property?
Yes.
Okay.
I do a lot of cut and paste, and I actually took a cut and paste from that very staff report, so.
Okay, so Dan, just to make sure we have all the information, Tanner's building permit is approved and in place?
Yes, it is. It was approved with a different location, for an approach permit. However, working, I guess, with the utility companies, they had initially agreed to move some telephone poles, and then they came out and reviewed it again and basically said, nope, we can't move that telephone pole. And then after that, working even with the county highway department, they agreed the best location was down the section line. We even looked at an option of using the, if you zoom into this area. This right here is a driveway, and this is city property in this location. This is Mr. Hancock's property right here. This is the section line. He would come in right here. We even discussed about using this and then coming across this way as the driveway. But even the county highway says this is the best option for their driveway in their current in that location.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Dan, you said the city, that is city property and owned by the city, or it is within the city?
Nope, it's owned by the city outside of city incorporated limits.
Okay. So what's the proper wording for the motion?
To approve the road within the section 9 highway with those 8 conditions.
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So you should come here first.
Mr. Chair,
Lesson learned.
I'd make a motion that we take a 7.5 minute break.
Thank you.
7.5 minutes. That'd be 5 minutes after 11. I'll second the motion.
I second.
Do we have a motion to go into a Board of Adjustment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to convene the Board of Adjustment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Dan?
Good morning. Item A is a variance request 1207 for Robert and Diane Tomac. It was to reduce the minimum required front yard setback from 25 feet to 21 feet in a suburban residential district. And staff is recommending to acknowledge the withdrawal of this variance request. After review, it was determined that the variance was not even needed. The property, the addition he wanted to put on did not increase the nonconformity. It was not in the setbacks that was in violation. So he did not need this, and so the applicant is in concurrence with the withdrawal of this variance application.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion, second, anyone? Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Item B is a variance request 1208 for Michael and Kimberly Anderson to reduce the minimum required setbacks in order to bring an existing cabin and deck into compliance. If the board grants this setback variance request, staff is recommending that 2 conditions be applied. This is located at 12772 Black Forest Drive, currently zoned general ag, It is a .17 acre lot that is legal non-conforming. It was created prior to 1994 and is considered a legal non-conforming lot. The existing cabin was actually built in 1929, encroaching into all the required setbacks. The required setbacks is 25 feet. He is now coming in. He wants to completely tear the roof off, including the rafters and all the wood on top, and replace it, and which required a building permit, which then thus requires him to get this variance request. And so staff doesn't feel it's going to further any encroachments, or it is a way to bring the property into compliance to allow him to get a building permit to replace the roof on the property, and leave the rest up to you. We did recommend that if you approve it, we ask that the 2 conditions be attached.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the setback variance request with 2 conditions.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So with this, he won't be increasing the footprint. It's just the roof.
That's correct. He's
And that's
tearing the
what's-
roof completely off.
Okay, and that's what it'll say. It's just the roof.
Yes.
So was he in compliance in 1929 when it was built?
I imagine he was, because there wasn't any zoning at the time.
Any further discussion? Not. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to come out of Board of Adjustment.
Is there a second? Motion and a second. Commissioner Buskard seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consent calendar. Dan?
The Board of Commissioners uses a consent calendar to act as a non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by 1 motion. Vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent calendar and placed on the regular agenda at the request of the board members or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning items contain the following items. Second reading of a rezoning request 1205 and comprehensive plan amendment 1203 for Orville Davis, Lazy P6 Land Company. Approval was recommended by the Planning Commission, and County Board approved the first reading 2 weeks ago. Item D is a preliminary plat 12-13 Marv and Chris Matkins. Planning Commission had recommended that this be continued to the 8/7 Board of Commissioners meeting. Item E is a preliminary plat and a subdivision regulation variance 1209 for Rushmore Cave and Bobby Sunby as the agent. And this was to approve and deny portions of the subdivision regulation variance and recommend approval of the preliminary plat. Item F is the first reading in a public hearing of rezoning request 1208 and the comprehensive plan amendment 1206, Shane Geidel, and it was recommended to be continued to the August 21st Board of Commissioners meeting.
Does anyone wish any of the items removed from the consent calendar?
I would like to remove item C, please.
Item C?
Yes.
Any other items? If not, Chair would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the consent calendar for planning and zoning of item D, E, and F.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve items D, E, and F on the planning and zoning consent calendar. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item C, Dan.
This is a second reading and a rezoning request 1205 and a comprehensive plan amendment 1203, Orville Davis, Lazy PC6 Land Company. It is to rezone 35.88 acres from Highway Service District and General Ag District to General Commercial District, and to amend the comprehensive plan to change the future land use map from Highway Service District and Low Density Residential District to General Commercial District. The Board of Commissioners approved the first reading on July 3rd, and Planning Commission also recommended approval of both items. It's located right across from the new Walmart location off of Catron Boulevard. It is right across from city limits. If it were to ever be platted, it would be annexed into the city of Rapid City. And given the current commercial uses that are going around in the area, staff did recommend approval of this rezoning request in the comprehensive plan amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing new to add. I just wanted the opportunity to vote no on it without voting no on the rest of the consent calendar.
I can understand that, appreciate it. Any further discussion? I guess just in general, Dan, it looks to me like the topography, the dam and whatnot that's there, at some point there's going to be some drainage considerations that the public will have to pay for, or how's that work?
Well, typically the developer is responsible for all development within that area, and any drainage requirements and road improvements is all part of the developer when he goes to develop the property. In this case, if it is developed and platted into different lots, it will be annexed. And even if it is platted, well, if it's platted, it will be annexed into the city of Rapid City. And if he does a commercial use on the property without platting it, he still has to address all those issues with county planning and zoning.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm going to be voting no on this also because of the fire coordinator's statements, and that it should be annexed into the city and let the city take care of their own future.
Any further discussion? Is there a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve, accept staff's recommendation.
I guess I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? What happens is if this motion does not pass, then what?
The property is not rezoned.
Okay.
Yeah. Is this one of those that has to have 4 votes?
No.
No, just 3.
Just 3.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
No. Motion failed. Thank you, Dan.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Committee reports.
Yep. Whatever that was for. Where do you want to start with committee reports?
I think we'll start at that end.
Okay.
I don't really have any.
I don't think I have anything new.
The only thing is on Friday, Black Hills Association, I'll get Holly to make some copies of these resolutions we've passed and make sure everyone up there understands them and vote on them and see where it goes. Noon at Sturgis at the, I don't know what's the name of that place.
Easy Rider.
Easy Rider or whatnot. No, it's not that anymore. They changed the name.
Sued and I don't know what it is.
Oh, no, it's something different?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
The only thing, 2 little things I have, Central States Fair, remember the fair's coming up in August. Try and give them all the publicity we can get. We need to bring people into the fairgrounds to utilize that facility. The next one is that starting today, there is an organization in town that's a national blacksmithing group that has about 800 people here, and they're going to be on the fairgrounds through this week. And I can't believe that they're going to be out there working over forges in 106-degree heat, but you know, give it to them if they are. But they're going to be building some metal objects and things during this next week, and I think they're going to auction them off on Saturday night. So apparently 800 contestants or participants there.
If I could just ask a question.
Sure.
I see there's campers camped out there in that campground that the Central States Fair has. I assume that must be people that are participating in that program. Does the Central States Fair charge for that, or do they get money for that?
They do get money for that, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't have any committee reports either, but I deferred the chairman's comments, I guess, or items from the chair, and since Mr. Farabee is here, I had a visit with him a while back, and one of his points of interest was to make known or be informed of the individual commission votes relative to placing citizens on the planning commission. And in that respect, he was questioning the method by which we voted, and was interested in who voted for whom. So each commissioner is, I would ask, you are free to express your vote, or you can decline. I personally voted for Lori Litzen and for Gail Jorgensen.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Is the way we voted for these individuals legal? Was it legal for us to do it the way we did it?
You know, I haven't requested Jay to address that, but I think in the future that certainly would be something that we would need to be apprised of, so that we do conduct the business in the appropriate manner. But at this point in time, I haven't pursued it on the technicalities, and I don't see any problem with making my vote known, and if you choose to do so, please do.
So the only person that's questioning this is Mr. Farabee?
He's the only one that spoke to me about it, yes.
Mr. Chair, there hasn't been any complaint about this for I presume nearly 20 years. I don't, as far as I know, that every vote that's been taken since I've been involved has always been a secret ballot when it comes to appointing people to Planning Commission.
So I'll just go down the line. Do you wish to reveal your vote? Yes or no?
Well, I think since the only one that's here that's questioning it is Mr. Farabee, and I'll just say this, I didn't vote for Mr. Farabee.
Mr. Pressler?
Who, you know, refresh my memory. I know I voted for Lori Litzen, and then I voted for somebody who didn't get it. Who's the second one that we appointed?
McCullen.
Yeah, I didn't vote for him.
Okay.
A gentleman from out in the valley, whoever that was.
Tomac?
Tomac, yep.
Commissioner Holloway, what's your wish?
I'm not going to respond.
I don't think I will either.
Okay. Next item is items from the public. Anyone who wishes to address that? If not, next item is executive session.
Move to go into executive session for personnel matters.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.